Welcome back. Well, here now with some tips for us in regards to homeowners and renters insurance. We're joined by Mark Matthews with Edward Jones. Mark, thanks for joining us today.
Glad to be here, Mary Grace.
Glad to have you with us here as well. So we're talking about the topic today specifically, 5 pitfalls to avoid with your homeowners or renters insurance. We were talking a little bit beforehand about how homeowners insurance premiums have jumped up like from 11% some places. So people may want to cut back on that, but we want to make sure people are prepared because we were talking about how things can be costly if you're not prepared the right way, Mark. So do you want to start us off with some of those things to avoid when it comes to your homeowners or renters insurance policies?
You bet, because saving some money on premiums might sound good in the short term. Down the road, if you have a claim issue or situation and you're not getting covered because you shortchange yourself, then that's really, a thing to avoid. So one thing that we suggest is you have what's called an open policy, which means that it covers really any event. Some policies will only cover a limited number of types of events, and you only want one that covers most anything that happens, because who knows what's going to happen.
Right.
That's why you have insurance, right? So you want to make sure that, most anything that happens to your possessions in your home, your rental property, is covered. And you can also look at that in terms of some policies don't cover every type of natural disaster or certain high value items. And so you might need what are called endorsements that cover specific things. I know my homeowners policy has endorsements for certain items that are over and above the basic policy, and if you want those things to be covered, you have to ask for them and probably pay for them. Here's one of the biggest thing I think of this list of 5 here is that you want to insure for the actual replacement cost, not the cash value. Because if you have something that's 5 or 10 years old, it's not worth as much as it was when you bought it, and a new one will cost a lot more, whatever it is. And so you really want to pay, have a policy that covers replacement cost, not actual cash value, because things depreciate all the time. And, if they're older, their cash value is definitely lower. And that kind of goes along with making sure you have adequate personal property coverage, not just your structure of your home, but the contents. And for renters especially, your stuff inside there is what really adds up as well. Electronics things, appliances, furniture, clothing. Think about all the stuff you have in there and what it takes to replace it. If it was all burned up or something like that, that can be pretty high. And then another thing that can be tempting is, compromising your coverage to lower your premiums. Again, that's where you get back to the situation of wishing you hadn't done that when a situation arises. One thing that you can look at is to raise your deductible. And that might mean more dollars going out if you have a claim, but you're still covered for those bigger events, whatever they might be. But you can lower your premium by raising your deductible from $500 to $1,000 or whatever the numbers are, something that you can stand out of your pocket if that were to happen, but you still have coverage on the big items and the big dollars and so forth. So, things have, labor's gone up, construction costs, all that type of thing have increased, and that's led to higher insurance premiums. And I know I've talked to some insurance agencies that were very concerned about people being underinsured on their properties because they hadn't raised it for a while. And, you hate to call in and say, hey, raise my premiums, but if you don't do that, you're insured for something from 5 years ago, and that's going to be less than it is now, probably in most every case. So,
right. So a
just
lot
some
of
words of advice.
Definitely, and some really good advice. And when it comes to this, this is all important stuff. We don't want to be cutting corners. We do want to make sure we're adequately insured, adequate coverage and all of that. And sometimes it can get confusing, but Edward Jones is there. How can people get in touch to review homeowners, renters insurance policies and make sure they're meeting their financial goals?
Sure. So we can be reached just looking at edwardjones.com and do a search for St. Joseph or your zip code, wherever it might be. And there'll be a Jones office someplace not very far away.
Awesome. Sounds good. Mark Matthews with Edward Jones. Mark, thanks for joining us and giving us these pretty good tips.
Thank you.
Of course. And stay with us. We'll be right back after a break.